doing this every month would not make sense. I'm 100% with you on that.
I think we're agreed that we definitely would like somebody to join us on the bench up here on a regular basis to be local. And I look forward to a conversation about what sort of makes the most sense, and we appreciate your willingness to work with us as we add those pieces back into our representation. Are there other comments, questions?
No, I just want to thank you for the help that you've already given us. And like I said earlier, it's good to be able to just put a face with the name. But I appreciate very much you coming to talk to us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I think we accomplished a lot even though we didn't see each other in the same room. I think it was a thorny topic, and we did our best to address it in the kindest way possible, given the thorny nature of it.
And I'll say that, yeah, it has been, I've enjoyed having the opportunity to work with you and your firm. On the occasion that I have had to mention to the HUD field office, we're represented by CWM. I mean, there is immediate recognition, and I think a respect or understanding that you folks are preeminent housing attorneys in Virginia. So that helps me a great deal. I think it helps the housing authority as we're not trying to reestablish that relationship.
Great.
So keep HUD happy, okay?
It's one of my missions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you have a long drive back, so if you don't stay the whole meeting, we...
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's pick up where we left off. Mr. Bellamy, I really wanted to say thank you for arranging the conversation that we're having now with the city attorney's office and the city about partnership and all that the ways that we might work together. And I do think that there's some great options there that we should discuss as a board. I am concerned about, as we venture forth into new territories, introducing areas of conflict that maybe could be easily avoided if we just didn't go there. And so I just want to sort of throw that out. I really appreciate Mr. Blair, who's the new city attorney, because as you know, Mr. Brown left after many, many years. And so Mr. Blair's got a lot of new folks on staff. There's a lot of energy there. I think definitely a willingness to be of service and a willingness to share our mission. But I do think that in the long run, there are a lot of things that either we're exceedingly pleased with the representation we have, or are areas of conflict that I just want to be cognizant of and be clear about when we're making a decision on how to ensure that we have legal representation locally. And I don't know if you all have thoughts or comments or have worked in similar situations before.
No, I just want to make it happen. I think, like Commissioner Bellamy said, we've been going a long time without an attorney. I feel uncomfortable. I think we all feel uncomfortable about it. And we need to make a move to make that happen. So I'm feeling comfortable with what I've heard you all discuss already. So the sooner, the better.
For the city, or
just to have local representation.
Yeah.
Here.
Right. Okay, I was just clarifying.
Doesn't necessarily have to be the city,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
discussion is there with the city. So to hear what they have to offer, or how do we do it, it needs to happen.
I think it's really on us to kind of define exactly what we're looking for locally, so that we can then sort of can get so then whether it's with the city or someone else, so we can write a contract, we can set up an MOU so that the boundary lines are really clear.
Well, I think that we all need to understand what the city is offering. There's only a couple of you who know, the rest of us don't. So I think there needs to be a discussion either with the board, with you and Mr. Bellamy and Mr. Duffield about what exactly all the city is offering, and that would help a lot.
Did everyone not get the email? So we talked about this in the last meeting about setting up the time, and then I sent the email to everybody with the time and the date, and then what we'll be discussing, and then the only ones that showed up were me, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Duffield.
I was out sick for
Yeah.
you.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying collectively.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Betsy texted me at the last minute that things had come up. We knew Miss Oliver was ill. Mr. Osteen was traveling. So I'm sorry. So we did have a publicly announced meeting that we did have where the city did.
So again, with those of us who missed what the
Yeah,
conversation
Wes, do you want to
was,
share a
we
little
need
bit
to-
about what the city attorney's office is offering or where their areas of expertise are?
Sure. So they talked essentially in regards to how we had Mr. Gore before. Obviously, Mr. Gore has moved on, and we have a whole new city attorney's office helping us with procedures just on a not day-to-day basis, but when we're up here. Really just the minuscule things like, sorry, it was a very lively conversation, so I'm trying to use my words wisely.
Look,
Sure,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Duffy.
I had some notes. Some of the things that they suggested were maybe helping us with FOIA or the conflict of interest items. Procurement, they suggested that, the attorney could help us with that. And then just meeting procedure, as we've got questions about, the appropriateness of certain actions at certain times. They could certainly help provide that kind of guidance. I think those are areas that we felt like there may be some room to discuss.
And to add to that list, I wanted to ask you, Wes, what the city attorney's office also represents the city police department. And to the extent to which that may be a beneficial relationship when we're discussing varmint issues, varmint policy, varmint training, and if there are any varmint issues that arise. I think the other piece that we haven't really focused on, but Mr. Collins brought up in his comments tonight, is it's time to redo the ACOP for us to really get on schedule to do regular annual updates to all of our administrative documents and plans. Like we just reset the admin plan for HCV, it's time to sort of reset the ACOP and then sort of keep on top of that. And HUD is regularly issuing things that say you have to do this. And I don't know sort of which kind of pocket that might fall in, but it's somewhat of a specialty because you need to be following HUD law. So it probably makes more sense to be in the CWM camp. But, I think we're, how do I say this? We're so appreciative of the city and its partnership. And yes, it is true that we are not a major cash flow entity. That said, it's also really important, I think, for the Housing Authority to be an equal partner and not, and to be able to, fire people if they're not working well for us. And so I guess I just have some hesitancy, not that Mr. Blair and his staff aren't wonderful, but given the long history that the Housing Authority did have being represented by the city attorney's office, we actually worked pretty mindfully to separate from the city and bring in Delphine as representation in the not too distant past for, I think, good reasons. And I would hate to sort of kind of undo all of that without being very, very careful. We really, really appreciate the gift, but does it put us in a position where then if things aren't going well, we actually damage our relationship with the city in the future? And I certainly, again, just want to be very mindful that if we set off in this path, that we're doing so in a way that's very transparent, that's very open, and that's keeping us as equals at the table. and not kind of setting us up again for a lot of source of conflict or angst when we've got so much else on our plate that will be causing us angst. So just to put that out there,
Yeah, I think there's no reason why if they're not doing what they're supposed to do or that we want them to do, we can't just tell them bye. I mean, everybody's adults, and we're all professionals, and we can tell the city at any time, if we don't feel like your services are up to par, then we need to go elsewhere. I have no issues or qualms with telling them that. But in the immediate, we need an attorney up here, like right there.
Well, I think it sounds like a lot of little talking going on right now, and you kind of confusing me. I don't know what to do or where to go, but I think that there needs to be a closed session that we all get together again and discuss this so that we can hear, because I'm hearing a lot of discomfort stuff
I
we
think,
might need to talk about.
I think what you're hearing is tension between Wes and I.
However, I still agree that we need somebody in that seat. I'm with you on that.
Does anybody disagree that we need somebody in that seat? No, we need somebody in that seat, so we're totally agreed on that.
Yeah, but soon.
And by our next meeting next month, if at all possible, but.
And I think that's where sorry.
Yeah, but I think, I think that we'd really love to hear you all's input, because I am firmly in the camp that says, while it is not free, I would prefer to have representation that did not come from the city, just to avoid potential conflicts in the future, and to maintain sort of the equal footing, because we just went through a process of separating from representation from the city. But it's not falling on deaf ears that I hear Wes saying, look, the city's our partner, they want to be our partner, they're investing heavily in us, providing services from the attorney's office for free or low cost, would be looking a gift horse in the mouth. Julie, what are you thinking?
I think that's a discussion that we need to have, because, we're getting all of that, and we're getting help, and we've had help in the past, but I haven't always been happy with that help either. So I think that that's a conversation that we need to have, closed doors, right?
And we can have it closed doors. That's fine. I just will say this last comment. Julie, you're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. We have a gift horse in the mouth, and we're, in my opinion, like giving them the stiff arm. And then the other part is, I don't think personally it's fair for us to hold this new city attorney and the way the office runs based off of how the last city attorney was ran, because we wouldn't want someone to hold our current housing authority and board by the same measure that our last ED and board operated. And this city attorney has shown to be very different, no disrespect to anyone, but to be very different from the last one. And he even said as much, correct me if I'm wrong, in our meeting, he is willing to be a open partner at little to no cost. I don't get how he can say no.
Wes, I do want to ask you, so we have a brand new city manager's office. Of course, we'll be overseeing the city attorneys.
The city attorney by charter works at the will of council. So
they work at the will of council.
He doesn't work for the city manager.
But obviously they have some relationship, and just, I don't know to the extent to which we need city manager buy-in on such an offer from the city attorney's office.
Well, our interim city manager is okay with it. And I'm just based on my conversations with our new city manager, Dr. Richardson, he has stated that he's not coming in immediately looking to rock the boat. So I'm pretty sure if Mr. Murphy says to Dr. Richardson, it's okay, I don't think he's going to have any issues. And again, the city attorney works at the will of council, and my colleagues on council don't have any issue with it.
I guess therein sort of lies a bit of my heartache around this, is that I really want an attorney that works at the will of this board, not at the will of city council, because while we have wonderful friends on council now, and we would not be where we are without your support, we know you're not going to be here next year.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sad to say it.
Just kidding.
And so I, just because I'm fully
I think that's
transparent,
smart.
yeah. That's a little bit of my. So I don't know if you all just, perhaps let's just sort of percolate on it and move on agenda-wise. And
And I'll say, I wouldn't say you're wrong for that. That's smart. You don't know what it's going to be like next year.
Yeah,
But I think, like, you mad at me? You mad at me, Miss Howard?
Just a little.
You
Just
know-
a little.
But I would say, I think that's absolutely, you're smart, you're absolutely right. I think it would be hard pressed with the community's outpour about affordable housing, supporting the housing authority, for whomever's on council to come and say, nah, the city attorney doesn't need to support, or we don't need to support the housing authority board. That would make their life even more hectic. But I think you're absolutely right.
I'm just controlling that way. Okay, thank you all for indulging us in that conversation. We really appreciate it.
But necessary.
Yeah, we do tough stuff up here. I just want to actually say a big thank you to my board members for being able to have tough conversations in a very civil manner and really listening, and to our audience for supporting us in that. So I think we're the most civil group that happens in this room these days. So it's pretty
I wouldn't say
exciting.
that. I won't say that, but thank you.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Moving on. We now have time for the housing director's report. Ms. Green, would you like to join us?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess we need to talk about vacancies. We're down to 36 with 7 offline, making it an active of 29. We have 10 pending lease-ups.
Will you speak in the microphone?
Oh, I'm
you're-
sorry.
you're
It's
so
because it's pointing in
quiet.
the wrong direction because
I
I'm
know.
tall.
And I'm sorry, the housing director's operations report is behind tab 2.
Yes, behind tab 2.
Much of the
Yeah. Do you remember how many vacancies we were at last month?
Overall, I think it was a total of like 52.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Massive progress happened.
Yes.
Well done.
Yes. So I'm eager to get that 10 pending leased up to take us to 19. UDs have dropped severely. We had 7. We dismissed 6. We have 1 that will continue in 2 weeks, and we don't have any writs at this time, but we have 9 repayment agreements.
Great.
So the accounts receivable is showing at, I want to say that's 16,348.67.
That's right.
Monthly activities for this month, Crescent Hall had a self-defense class sponsored by CRHA. Crescent Halls had a bed bug workshop today. West Haven has an upcoming cleanup day for the 27th. Yes, Ms. Johnson, we will be sending out flyers. Crescent Halls had a cleanup day on the 13th. For May, FAR has decided to sponsor a meet and greet for CRHA staff that we will be attending for the community. Resident Service Committee has asked the CRHA do a lease briefing discussion for their meeting. Staff was in training this month, the first 2 weeks, April the 3rd and the 5th. We did Yardi software, which was very beneficial to me.
Great.
All of the management staff attended. April the 9th, with the exception, someone had to stay in office and take the rent payments because we couldn't adjust the date. April the 9th through the 11th, we had REACT training, hands-on REACT training, not just sitting in the classroom. We went through every community we have, and that was with the maintenance and the management staff walking. The Community Resource Committee is still up and functioning. The Department of Social Service has sent us out an eligibility team that will be there on Wednesdays for 4 hours. Sarah is still there, Pace is there, Region 10, and Human Rights. We're still working to put together a budget workshop for those people who are coming up on their 2nd or 3rd UD.
That's a great idea.
UD, unlawful detention?
Unlawful detainer.
Detainer, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's a great idea.
Yeah. They can work one off by taking the course. And we want to make it as short as possible, but we want to make sure it's beneficial. So we're looking for the right person to facilitate that class. So,
Excellent.
and that's it. Anybody have any questions?
So the unlawful detention, can you explain that to me? What you guys are attempting to do, and then can you just
With the
break it down?
unlawful detainer
Yes, ma'am.
in
And
the
the people
budgeting
working it
class?
off. Yes, ma'am.
If you get 3, there's the possibility that we will not renew your lease.
Right.
So what we're going to do to get people in a better standing and help them out as far as financially and seeing what they're working with is to offer a budgeting class. If they attend that budgeting class and they complete it, we will write off one of those UDs for that
Gotcha.
12-month period.
Got you. Perfect. Great work, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
So are you responsible for the housing, horizon?
That would
Just
be
want to say a
Leslie.
great job. I'm glad to see us
Yeah.
back out.
Leslie put that
Beautiful
together.
job. It looked like it was teamwork. What a beautiful job. Thank you.
We did some
Really nice.
articles, but she did most of the work, if not all of it. And Mr. Duffield did a little bit.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you, Ms. Green. And now we have our redevelopment coordinators report.
Well, I had
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just had a question or comment. Ms. Green doesn't have to come back up. One of the things, from Mr. Duffield as well, one of the things that I've heard, and I think we've had these discussions before, in regards to the GED program. So we, through the equity package a couple years ago, we set aside, I think it was $20,000 for GED classes in our public housing sites. And then I know the city, we did a Go GED program in which we had some of our public housing residents take advantage of, but there still should be money in that pot. One of the things, since I am leaving, Ms. Oliver, specifically, one of the things, yeah, right. One of the things that I would like to see us do, though, in all seriousness, is utilize those funds. So we had before, and Ms. Johnson was a part of it, Ms. Gilmore and several others, in which we had teachers come from from the GED program, come to the community, work with the residents in regards to taking the GED classes, and then we have money in that pot that also pays for the GED class. So I would love for us to see that be utilized in the immediate future because we have money for it. So again, can get our folks GED training, and I know Mr. Frank Freeman at PVCC is interested in facilitating a partnership in which we can have assistance, tuition assistance from those who live in public housing to come to PVCC. If I need to help facilitate that as well, we can, but I really would like to see that happen.
That'd be great.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I ain't trying to create more work. I'm just saying, like, we can.
That's good work to create.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
good
all
work
right.
to create.
Thank you.
All good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Green, I guess you and I'll send you an email now. We can probably get together next week or later in the week or something.
All right. There are no other questions for Ms. Green or comments about housing issues. We'll talk redevelopment. Mr. Norris? You will find Mr. Norris's updates behind tab 3 in your folder.
Good evening, Chairwoman Jones and Commissioners, Mr. Duffield. So I am going to briefly recap the report you have in front of you, and at the conclusion of my comments, I would like to invite Mr. Griggs forward, if you wouldn't mind, and just share a few thoughts. He's been with us all day today, kind of doing a deep dive into Crescent Hall specifically, and will be here with us all day tomorrow as well to continue that dialogue and talk a little bit more about Section 3. And love to have him come up and share a few thoughts in a moment. So in the report, we talk a little bit about what's the latest at Crescent Halls and South First Street. Again, to recap, we are waiting for the outcome of the low-income housing tax credit scoring process. We'll know by May 31st if we receive funding for both those projects. In the meantime, we're continuing with resident engagement at both of those sites. Thanks to FAR and the Crescent Halls Tenant Association, we have a working group that meets regularly that's been working with the architect and his folks to continue developing designs and development plans for Crescent Halls. We've had some meetings at South First Street, and thanks to Bruce Wardell, we're going to be kicking off a much more intensive engagement process at South First Street in the coming weeks and months to start talking about the master plan for the whole site. So a lot is going on the ground with both of our Phase 1 projects, and we're very excited at that progress. Phase 1.5, as you know, is the Levy Avenue, Avon Street site. We received some very good news, as mentioned in the report. The preliminary results are now in on the environmental assessment, and the good news is that they found low risk to human health, and will not require a very costly, very time-intensive remediation process, which is what we were all worried about. And there are two specific suggestions they're making to contain any contamination. One would be prohibit us from drilling a water well, which we can't do anyway by city code, by city rules. And then secondly is just to cap the existing site with the building and construction work, which is what we do anyway. So very good news there, which means that we hypothetically at least would be able to get moving on development plans for Levy Avenue and Avon Street a little sooner than we expected. So obviously that's not our primary focus right now, but we will be turning our attention to that in the near future. And as Ms. Oliver has said repeatedly, that's going to involve a lot of collaborations and discussions, not only with our residents, but also with the Belmont neighborhood and other key stakeholders. So I want to give a big thank you to City Council and to Dr. Bellamy specifically for the funding that they did provide in the coming year's budget. That happened since our last board meeting. I believe it's the largest single infusion of city dollars in history for public housing ever. So we're very grateful of the $3 million commitment this year. Of course, the overall redevelopment effort is going to cost well over $100 million, so we're going to need continued city support, but that's a great first start, and thank you, Dr. Bellamy, for your leadership on that. And I also want to give a big thanks to FAR and CLIC, the Charlottesville Low Income Housing Coalition, for advocating and working to raise the importance and visibility of the affordable housing crisis in our community, and specifically the need for public housing redevelopment. So thank you to all the folks who helped make that happen. Relocation plan. Thank you to Brenda Kelly for coming forward with a draft of a relocation plan. The redevelopment committee has been reviewing it and amending it. The most important part in the process of reviewing and finalizing a relocation plan is sitting down with the residents at Crescent Halls, which we will be able to shortly do now that we're getting a better understanding of how the construction phasing could work, and you'll be hearing a little bit more from Mr. Griggs on that point. So we look forward to sitting down in the very near future. In fact, before your next meeting, because our goal is to get that relocation plan thoroughly vetted by residents and be able to bring it to you for your May meeting for approval. So that's the plan. We'll hopefully be able to make that happen. Demolition and disposition. I wrote this memo a week ago, and in the meantime, we've had a little bit of a change in that we learned of a environmental review process, public comment process that we have to undertake with the help of the city, which won't delay it extensively, but it just means we have to put it out for public comment. The environmental assessment piece of the demo dispo application, we have to put that out for public comment and get HUD clearance on that before we can submit the overall application.
Did you receive word back from the city?
I have not.
Okay. So Dave has made an ask of the Neighborhood Development Services staff, who typically oversee this type of engagement piece. While it won't delay us greatly, time is absolutely of the essence. So
Right, so we didn't want to wait until your next meeting to approve, or at least to authorize your executive director to submit a demo dispo app. So the thinking, as Mr. Collins referenced earlier, is that we'd get working with city staff to jump through that hoop with the environmental review process, and then we would take the demo dispo app itself and sit down with our redevelopment committee over the next week or two and make sure everybody's on board with it. Again, mostly it's just checking boxes, but there are a lot of attachments to it relating to resident engagement, relating to the environmental assessment, et cetera, et cetera. So, but time is definitely of the essence. So hopefully the resolutions before you tonight simply say, here's what's happening. We want you to be able to deputize Mr. Duffield to sign off once the apps are finalized, and we're ready to go. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about any or all of the above, and then I would love to have Mr. Griggs step forward and share some of his thoughts based on what he's seen today. And
I have a question.
yes, sir.
And this may be a little out the box, but I think it's worth discussing from FAR's perspective. You like when I do that, Wanda? She said, no, she don't like when I do that. From FAR's perspective, the Housing Authority Board's perspective, and the community's perspective as a whole, what if, because as you alluded to, it's going to take about $100 million to do redevelopment as a whole. And council, we've tried to do so much, but I wouldn't, personally, I look that that's going to be the norm. That's why we tried to get as much as we could now. But while we have this group, what if we were to approach the university and ask them for a $50 million commitment towards affordable housing for us specifically? President Ryan has spoke at length, and I've seen them. We've had different discussions. I know they've spoken at length in regards to how they want to do something for the community. They have an $8 billion endowment. Everywhere you turn around, and I just tweeted this and put this on Facebook. Thanks for retweeting it, John. A lot of people, they have these symposiums, these conferences about affordable housing and public housing, and then we only have 12 people who come to the meeting. 7 of them are staff. The other 5 are FAR reps. If we want to be serious from our board's perspective, there has not been an ask from us specifically to the university about this is clearly what we want. I was going to do something on my way out, but I do think it would be stronger if we did something, because I was just going to ask for the check myself. But I think it would be worth us having that discussion. I know he's had his committee on equity and so forth, but they came back saying the same thing that we already knew. So we need to make the ask.
But
you with me on this one? All right.
I think, Wes, really one of the biggest challenges that you would face in and of yourself is because you don't have much time, but you need to make time to sit with a sculptor who could put together a statue of you that we put in front of public housing after the $50 million check.
We don't need to do that. Oh, with the check.
With the check. Only if you get the check.
Gotcha.
No, you gotta bring home the bacon.
I'm with us doing the,
I love these people so much, I'm just going to leave you.
leave you this check. Jog through and here's the check. But in all seriousness, though, Mr. Duffield, I think that this ain't gotta be about me. Because this will literally go past my term on council. But we get the ball rolling, and we draw the attention. What it is they've never had an ask. There's, to my knowledge.
Yep,
and Ms. Jones, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Since I work at UVA, that the new president has, seemingly, I've heard him speak a few times now, been in some meetings, he seems to legitimately care about this. So I feel like there's a momentum and a time that we've got right now. And so I agree. I don't know what the exact ask or how to...
Well, you shoot for 50, and then if they come back with 20...
But there's a lot of backup, I think,
right,
that
Brandon?
we could add. Yeah. But I think...
Brandon told me this. For real. He told me this. He said $50 million bond last year, and I laughed at him, and then at the council meeting I told him he's crazy. But he's absolutely right. And because of that, we got the largest, not because of all of y'all, we got the most money we've ever put in. So We just,
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with us saying to UVA, listen, you guys have said, like you said, you talk about this and whatnot. Here's our plan. We want $50 million that will address this site, this site, this site. We're already working on it and so forth. What are you going to do? Let's run it up to the Board of Visitors. Let's run it up to the rector. Let's run it up to whomever. Here's where we think you can pull the money from. I mean, all they can say is no.
That's perfect.
But
And
we
if they say yes, we
could get
good.
I think we could get some pretty quick statistics to back it up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, I've got some stuff, and there's stuff out there just to say, here's some bullet points of what what's causing some of this inequity here, so we'd like to cash in here. Absolutely.
I love the idea.
Yeah. So it sounds like we got a team, Mr. Bellamy, Ms. Reitger.
No, I ain't say I was doing the work. I said, here's the idea. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, if we want to form a subcommittee, I'm with it.
Well, it's not an official subcommittee, but
Well, not a sub-
we
I'm sorry,
we charge you
team.
all to talk about it.
talk about it.
And I believe probably worth bringing Riverbend into that conversation.
I know they've actually had some initial conversations with various folks at UVA about
Yeah.
getting involved in this effort, but I don't know
I-
that they've ever floated.
I don't think there's been a specific
Yeah,
ask made,
right.
but some groundwork has been laid by Riverbend there, so that's worth seeing where they're at, and then bringing in our community advocates.
Sure.
And just preliminarily, put it on the table. I think one of the areas that we need to continue to consider is, as part of our overall strategy, is the home ownership piece. And if we're making this kind of an ask, how can we fold some of that into the overall program, right? But let's not lose sight of that.
I agree, and it's important to keep in mind there are universities around the country that have played a very active role in supporting community housing, economic development. So there are precedents, and it doesn't even necessarily need. I mean, it'd be great if they cut us a $50 million check grant, but maybe it's a long-term, low-interest loan, a socially responsible investing kind of approach. But an infusion of anywhere close to $50 million would be huge.
Yeah. Even if they gave us one, they ain't giving us nothing.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Unless there's any other questions, I'd love to.
Yeah, but stay close in
No,
case
I'll
we
be
need you
right
for
here.
demo dispo.
Yep.
Mr. Griggs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for having me today. This is, I think, my 5th visit to the beautiful city of Charlottesville. So I want to thank you guys for having me again. I'm going to piggyback off of the conversation that we just had and follow up with some information from Chicago. So I sit on the Chicago Investment Commission and also the Chicago Community Land Trust Board. And 6 years ago, we also made an ask to then President Obama for $1 billion in investment in Chicago for public housing. And on his way out the door, he gave us $500 million to the Chicago Housing Authority. So I think that you shoot for the stars and you'll land on the moon. So I think you should definitely go for it. That would be my advice. So I grew up in public housing in Chicago, in Cabrini Green, which at the time was the largest public housing project in the country. So, housed about 4,100 units. Today, Queensbridge in New York is the largest public housing development of about 3,100 units, where we do work there as well. Started this business of mine in general construction, construction management, development, and consultancy back in 2009. Worked in this industry for a long time, spent 16 years working for a company in Chicago called Walsh Construction, spent a couple years out in Washington, D.C., working for another firm called Clark Construction. So I'm very familiar with the affordable housing space. Our firm focuses on affordable housing across the country. We have offices in Dallas, we have an office in Chicago, and hopefully soon we'll have an office in Charlottesville. So we are focusing our efforts on affordable housing across the country. We also do work for the federal government and the diplomatic housing space, and also military barracks. So you'll find us at Fort Hood, Fort Leonard Wood, and a bunch of the other military barracks. I'm also a veteran in the United States Army. I spent 11 years in the Army as a captain, as what we call an Army contracting officer, so building barracks across the country and military barracks. Did 2 tours overseas and during Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom as well. So I've been working with with FAR and the Housing Authority here for the last probably about 13 or 14 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. Just really as a pro bono advisor, just assisting them. I met them when they came with the delegation to Chicago, and they were introduced to me by some of the folks in Chicago and some of the work that we do around not just construction and development, but also the development of people. As I explained to housing authorities across the country when I speak, affordable housing development is not just about the actual product, it's about the people that you're impacting, and you have to have, it's a different type of transaction. There's a financial one, but there's also a social transaction. And the social transaction is a lot bigger than the financial transaction because it'll never be successful if you don't reach the people. So with that, we focus our development and our opportunities on that. We focus on the people. Our company employs about 116 folks. Of those 116 people, 72 are public housing residents. Those are 72 public housing residents from the city of Chicago that would not be employed if it were not for our firm. And as we expand in Dallas, right now our staff is about 11, and of that 11, 5 are from public housing. So we are continuing that trend in Dallas, Texas as well. But it's important because when you go into communities and you start to do work and you invest in those communities, the people who live there and have made that their home should be the first to realize the investment and the impact within those communities. And when that doesn't happen, you create this descent of inequity and people get unhappy and there's no success there. So our goal is to, being boots on the ground, is to make the folks' lives that we're going to impact through the development. We want that to be a positive experience, but we also want them to be able to participate in that experience as well. So we're meeting with everyone here in Charlottesville. I think that's been at the forefront of the conversation that I've continued to have as we meet. What I've seen is that there's something unique going on here in Charlottesville that I have not seen, not even in Chicago or in Dallas. There is a sense of urgency, and everybody seems to be on the same accord. It's about helping the residents, and it's about helping the people. And I've seen the residents have a very, very large voice here in Charlottesville, which I have not seen even in Chicago or Dallas. So I think that's very important because they're driving the bus, and they're not just a passenger on it. So I think that's extremely important. What I've seen as we began to push the process forward, as I mentioned when I was here in December, that we were a little bit behind the gun. I'm starting to see things pick up a little bit, which is great. Today I spent my day walking Crescent Halls, doing more of the construction work. I'm an engineer by trade, so I like to get dirty, even though I get to wear a suit every day these days. But I still like to climb in the holes and actually figure out what's going on in the building. So we did that today for a number of hours. I was at Crescent Halls from 8 this morning till about 11:30. Just really walking the building, looking at the guts with the architect, up on the roof and climbing around and just figuring out, what do we need to do to make this this renovation process as smooth as possible for the residents. I'm pleasantly surprised and happy to deliver some news. I think in the phasing report that I sent out to Riverbend a few months ago that was included in the LIHTC submission, we had a tiered approach to the phasing for the construction, which showed that we would need 49 units available to us. At the present time, it looks like we may be able to do a floor-by-floor renovation, taking 2 floors at a time, and we would only need 30 units available to us at that particular point in time. Now, I do like to put an asterisk by that because there are some things that need to be qualified, like the existing stack system, and if that needed to be replaced, and some other things that may impact us being able to renovate on the floor-by-floor. But of the half a dozen or 8 or 9 unit buildings that we've done of this type in Chicago and the 2 we have under construction in Dallas, we've been successful at doing those on a floor-by-floor basis, and it really makes life a lot easier, especially when you're in a senior facility where everyone can't utilize the staircase even if they wanted to. You still have to provide access to a working elevator, and you have to provide a free and clear access to that elevator as well. So working very hard on our end to make sure that regardless of whoever winds up being the contractor on the job, that there is a clear plan in place for them that the Housing Authority has to be able to implement a process that's going to ensure the safety of the residents, but also ensure that the product is turned over to the Housing Authority and it's one that you can be proud of and have for the next 15 to 30 years. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and I look forward to spending more time here in Charlottesville. I love the weather. Thank you for making it hot for me because in Chicago it was 41 degrees when I left, but just so happened today it was 79 degrees. So clearly when I leave, it gets warm, and when I get back tomorrow, it'll be, or Wednesday morning, it'll be 50 degrees again. So I'm not too excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add, Mr. Griggs is committed because 2 weeks from now he's getting married, in Mexico, and we are thrilled that even though he's in the final stages of putting together his wedding, he still took time to come here to Charlotte. So we love it.
Man, my wife needs to talk to your wife.
She's not my wife yet.
That's why.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the board? And if not, then we'll jump straight into demo dispo.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Cornelius. Thank you.
Mr. Duffield, you want to talk demo dispo with us?
Yes, behind tab 4.
Five. Yeah, behind 5. 4.
Yeah,
Right,
4.
sorry.
You'll see a resolution 1395 authorizing the Housing Authority to submit demo dispo application to the HUD Special Application Center. I'll read through this briefly, and then we will discuss as needed. Whereas Crescent Halls is a public housing apartment building and site located at 500 South 1st Street in Charlottesville, Virginia, defined as Charlottesville property, parcel number 280218000, and whereas Crescent Halls is currently subject to a deed of trust between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and whereas Crescent Halls is an 8-story high-rise building consisting of 105 apartments, as well as community common areas and administrative office space situated on 2.38 acres, and whereas CRHA, working in tandem with our Resident Advisory Board, the Public Housing Association of Residents, seeks to completely rehab and refurbish the Crescent Halls property, retaining the site as 100% affordable, low-income housing development supporting 105 tenant leaseholders, and whereas in 2017, CRHA and FAR developed a resident-led redevelopment approach to public housing redevelopment grounded on FAR's positive vision for redevelopment, planning efforts, and community engagement, as well as CRHA's Residents First organizational vision. And whereas this resident-led redevelopment initiative has mandated that residents advance all planning and decision-making throughout the development of the proposed project in coordination with the local jurisdiction and community stakeholders. And whereas the City of Charlottesville has endorsed and provided all necessary approvals for the proposed rehabilitation project and has committed $1,875,000 in capital funding to assist CRHA in the construction of this project. And whereas HUD demolition and disposition application approval is sought under 24 CFR 970.17C for improved efficiency, effectiveness through on-site development of low-income housing. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commissioners of the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority that the Executive Director is hereby authorized to take all necessary actions to submit a demolition and disposition application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Special Application Center for the rehabilitation and refurbishment of 105 apartment units at Crescent Halls facility, VA 16 AMP 2. Again, as we discussed earlier, this approval that we are seeking this evening would empower staff to submit the demo dispo application once it has cleared the final public notice requirements as stipulated by HUD and administered by the city.
Okay. Questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 1395 for approval to submit demo dispo application to HUD for Crescent Halls.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
I was about to press that.
That's a tough one. Yeah. And next we have under tab 5, a similar resolution for our South First Street property. You want to walk us through that one?
Should we? Yeah.
If you want to just highlight any sort of major differences between the two, I don't think you have to read the whole thing, but if you just
the significant differences obviously are the location. This demo dispo application is not a rehab refurbishment. This is development of new units on our currently undeveloped property at South First Street, the ball field area. The resolution identifies, again, City of Charlottesville support in the amount of $1,125,000, and it cites a different CFR, as this is considered a disposition of vacant land. Other than that, the passage of the resolution will authorize staff to submit the demo dispo application at the time that the public notice periods have been exercised as administered by the city.
Fantastic, thank you. Is there a motion?
I move to accept Resolution 1396, approval to submit demo dispo application to HUD for South First Street undeveloped land.
Thank you, and a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wow.
Wow. It's pretty thrilling, actually, I have to say.
I mean, that's...
I know we're not even all the way done, but well done, guys.
No, between the LIHTC applications that went in and this step,
Yeah. And I know Dave mentioned it, but a huge thanks to everyone here in this room, Brenda Kelly, FAR, our partners in the city, our advising staff at Riverbend for really sort of getting us to this point to date. So thank you.
wow.
And gosh, we're really just moving right along. Grant, would you like to give us the executive director's report?
I will. Yes, thanks. Chairwoman Jones, Commissioners, behind tab 6, you'll find the Executive Director's Report dated April 19th, 2019. In the cover memo, you'll see the major activities that I've been focusing on during the reporting period. Again, the demo dispo application as well as the relocation planning efforts have been underway. We completed redevelopment funding applications and submitted those at the end of March. The parallel track planning that Mr. Collins alluded to earlier is an effort that is currently underway. And I think Mr. Collins summarized very succinctly. Coming out of that meeting, there is some additional clarity that we need to, perhaps from a board level, help define. The next step in the process, as I understand it, and please help correct me, is a reconvening next week during which we look through the existing capital fund budgets that we have open and determine what funding sources there can be used to help support modernization and parallel track activities, in addition to the city funding that has been designated for modernization, so that we get a sense of what kind of resources we have available to pursue this. The next piece is to, and should take place at the same meeting, is to have some candid conversations with our existing maintenance staff who see the conditions of the properties day in and day out, and help us to identify sort of what are the systemic opportunities out there that we can take advantage of to create modernization in certain units. As Mr. Collins said, there is some struggle between how do we make definition between standard maintenance activities versus true modernization project, and I think that's something that, while they certainly overlap, I think that's something that we should probably need to discuss again on a board level and be able to help create some parameters I don't know if that's something we need to do at this meeting. It's maybe worth 10 minutes of discussion now to talk through that, or to actually bring at the upcoming parallel track meeting next week.
Thoughts or questions on Mr. Duffield's question?
I'm fine with taking some time to have the discussion. I think it's necessary and warranted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and Mr. Collins, would you like to join us? Would you be willing to join us? Right. Yeah, and
I honestly don't have a position. I think, I think we're searching for a position and a vision, that we can all kind of come to grips on. So I was thinking perhaps our board chair might be a better source of information on this. So.
Good evening, everyone.
Ms. Johnson.
Hey, Miss Slaughter. How's Chicago? I'm sorry, y'all. As I was sitting back there and still thinking about the robust conversation that we had at the parallel track meeting, I think I'm more convinced now that the maintenance committee and the parallel track should be one. To be able to, you're shaking your head, but
I'm processing that recommendation.
Because of, and the reason I was saying that is because of the things that needs to be, that is routine, that can shift to capital, and that what will be modernization, right? So to me, it is in three categories. I think Mr. Osteen kind of helped us to see that the last time. Is that, and we was hoping that that's something Cornelius could help us with going forward, is how we make the parallel track work in such a way that even though the work is going on with Crescent Halls and we're looking at building something new, that we are still maintaining what we have, because some of those long-term probably will be relocation units. I also think that a maintenance supervisor or a capital improvement person is really, really needed. I don't think that we can take on all of the above and not really have someone with the expertise that can actually say, you know what, and I think part of the conversation going forward is going to have to be about which site we're going to modernize and which site we're going to just maintain. So this is why I was saying that I think we need to have, because the maintenance committee and the parallel track work as one. I think you get much more because you have board members there and you will have residents there, and we can prioritize some things. If folks need to go off in a subcommittee to do work, then that's fine. But I just think I'm overloaded, okay? And Audrey's overloaded. We're at meetings. We're splitting up now to go to different meetings, and Carol and Crescent Halls is where they need to focus. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're utilizing the energy and the people that we have to be able to still deal with the other population needs, but also to make sure the parallel track is being discussed. So that's kind of what I was wrapping my head around since the last meeting. I keep missing some of the maintenance meeting because it's on days that, if they have it on Wednesday, I work, so I can't be there. But I think that Ms. Oliver at the meeting had a good idea about let's hear from staff. And I do think it's critical that the housing director is sitting at that table and basically telling us, right, and the maintenance people, what they're running into. We can sit around the table, or, I don't want this, people at home, I don't want you to take it the wrong way, please, but we've been saying and carrying the message for a while. We need to hear from the people who are doing the actual work, what it is. And this is where I feel like after your honeymoon is over, I feel like having Cornelius in the room to basically help us. But I just think for the Housing Authority, one of the most investment that I think that, and I don't know if it's in the budget or what you can do, but I just think that we have gone too long without a maintenance supervisor and someone with capital experience. So that's kind of my thought on it.
Great.
Do we have funding in the budget for a maintenance supervisor?
We can get maintenance supervisor services if we come out of capital. We don't have it in the operating budget.
So can we pull it out of capital?
We could, and that'll be under contract relationship. Yeah.
So they wouldn't be officially CRHA staff, but we would find a consultant who has expertise in this area who would serve these needs for us. And it may look like a day-to-day.
Right.
A similar relationship that we have to our redevelopment coordinator, for example.
Well, have had, yes.
Yes.
Right.
And just another caveat, there's been discussion at the maintenance committee meeting. I'm so confused sometimes where I'm at. But but it has been some discussion about, having a team of people who are contracted to do walkthroughs and all. We already have that team. That team is the asset manager.
Right. Right.
Okay? And so I don't think we need to go down that road. I think the housing director has that under control. However, I think the piece that we need to bring it all together so it is one team is actually the capital improvement slash
maintenance supervisor.
Yeah, maintenance supervisor.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. There are thoughts from the board on this topic at this time? That makes a lot of sense to me, especially the idea of the systemic, what you're talking about, the systemic problems versus maybe the one-time fixes. And it'll just take a while to prioritize all of that and which sites. But it makes sense to have maintenance and parallel track together for that reason, and have staff super involved in those decision-making.
So what would be a timeline if we were to move forward with this, since we know it's a need?
Well, our next, and I don't have the date, I guess it's, next Monday at noon, we have our next parallel track meeting, at which time, we walk through the capital budgets and we talk with the maintenance staff. And I think coming out of that, what I hope we can do is then start identifying, okay, what are the kinds of projects that fall into a modernization scope as opposed to this standard maintenance, and what can that modernization package look like?
Not trying to be
No.
funny here, but I think this is also a time why I think we need an attorney.
Okay.
But one thing that I would love for us to do at this meeting, so that we don't belabor it, because you have your meeting and then you have to come back and get approval, if we could authorize now those committees with moving forward with after the meeting on Monday, and then entering a contract of sorts or pursuing a contract of sorts, so it doesn't have to come back to us.
Sure.
But we can agree on doing so now, cut the middleman out, and then we just move forward.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that would
Okay.
force it to come back to us, but thank you for wanting to keep things moving forward. I agree. I think that at the parallel track meeting on Monday, it would be ideal to sort of have a discussion about scope of services for a contract, and what that might look like. And I totally understand that we're all stretched thin, and this is a huge need. I totally agree that it's really not going to get any traction or move forward until we have that body who's in charge on it on a day-to-day basis. And I think when that happens, we'll maybe sort of leave it up in the air as to how much the committees or the work gets combined. The one thing we all know is that maintenance issues are really important. People live them day to day, and that they will take a whole meeting to discuss. So I guess I'm just still wary about marrying them so closely, because I feel like bigger long-term modernization projects just don't get the airtime that they need to get fully fleshed out in committee when maintenance is also mixed in, because it too takes a lot of time. And I do think as we get more of a handle on maintenance and get, housing director's office and hearing from staff, and as some things get into place, then there'll be more space for that conversation. But I just want to be cognizant that we really do need a body to lead the conversation, and that for a while it might be mostly maintenance focused. That just seems to be the reality of the conversations I've been in for the past couple of years. But it's all not to say that we're not thinking about the parallel track, and I really think, bringing this group, this committee, a scope of services to flesh out that really sort of focuses on, big picture rehabs or, air conditioning units, testing those out, some pilot projects. I think it's really key to include some financing and procurement expertise as a part of this package as we think about it, whether it be on the legal side or in the expertise side of whoever we have come in and be the day-to-day brain behind this. You all can disagree with me, please.
Honestly, I don't have like a major position. I think I just need time to digest.
It seems like maybe it has to play out a little bit, but the maintenance committee, how often have they been meeting?
Once a month, to my understanding.
So, maybe
They're scheduled to meet once a month,
right.
but they haven't been.
But our next maintenance meeting will be, what did I say, the
29th?
We had to postpone it this month because Commissioner Talbot nor I could be there. So it's the 25th that I...
We did the 25th
and the 2nd. Okay.
Okay, so we'll keep you posted on that. So, I was just saying, for now, maybe we make sure to invite the whole maintenance, try to get the maintenance committee at the parallel track meetings for a start. And then maybe the rhythm of the meetings changes, so one is weighed more, maybe they're every.
So I think they need a backup person on that committee, so when the chairperson who's running that committee is not able to make that meeting, if you have a second backup person, that those meetings can happen. Because those meetings need to happen, and they're being canceled much too often. So let's find a backup person that can set.
Well, I agreed to be that backup person.
But then,
and it's kind of rough.
Life happens.
Yeah. It's kind of rough.
So the board,
you have to have communication with each other, and kind of that's not really.
Yeah, let's. All right. Cool.
So we'll see what we can do. Thank you, Ms. Slaughter.
Cool.
so where do we go with that? Do we have a second person that's going to do it, or I think it's a must. So you're saying that if the communication is if she can't come, then you will run the meeting.
Yeah.
So how do we relay that?
I think that Commissioner Talbot and I both need to come up with, some kind of, if she can't do it, then just as you have, or need be just this week, said I can't make it, give me an advanced phone call or text or something.
So are you willing to have that conversation? Are you willing to make that conversation with her? Or?
Of course.
Okay, then it's in your hand.
Okay. Oh, okay. And
However, I will say that,
and I'm sorry, I will, and staff can help.
Right.
Help bridge some of that
communication.
communication.
Because as of May 15th, I will be gone for a couple of months.
And while it is ideal for board members to be present, and we so appreciate the effort that the board's been putting on
I'm
this,
in the hospital.
given that our housing director staff is really kind of more active than they were when we originally formed this committee. How do you all feel about, in the instance like you just gave, when the board members weren't able to be there, staff going ahead and having the meeting with residents that come and then sort of reporting back to us? How does the board feel about that as a proposal?
No, I'm fine with that. I think that's a healthy compromise,
Yeah, you
actually.
good? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way we can get some consistency for residents.
Yeah.
They have Ms. Green that's there, helps facilitate.
Right, if staff's facilitating
That-
anyway,
that
just to
Ms.
make sure
Green.
that we,
Charlene Green as well.
oh, is Charlene Green coming to maintenance meetings as
Yeah.
well as safety meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The whole green team, I like it. All right. Okay.
Good.
So we'll relay that to Commissioner Talbert as well, that while it's always the hope that she be there to lead the conversation and represent the board in addition to you, Ms. Slaughter, that if on the chance that something happens and she's not able to be there, or we know you're gonna be out on medical leave for a little while, that, yes, Ms. Green?
I think one of the issues may be too, because when we have the
I'm sorry, you need to come to the front.
You-
You need, no,
maybe that
I can't hear
when
you.
we have the meeting, it's not as big of a turnout as the ones that we have in the daytime. It's a night one. So it hasn't been a real big turnout like the resident one is. It's nice. It's a nice size one, but that's like at 1:30.
Okay, so we'll take that under advisement. Thank you. Maybe do some consulting to find a time where we get more turnout. But it also may be the case that we just don't have any traction with this committee yet. So, thank you. Thank you all for your efforts to stick with this.
and to the communication piece, I have your Chromebook here as yeah. but-
Yeah, you might not be able to be here in person, but Mr. Duffield we have ordered Chromebooks for any Board of Commissioners who needs a Chromebook to be able to conduct Housing Authority business as a commissioner.
great.
And they're in boxes right over
Yeah,
there, so,
Right, so,
Which means you can't lay in the bed.
Great.
That's
that's right.
I thought I was gonna get some rest.
You're not gonna get rest, 'cause now you're gonna get emails from me every day. No, you can't. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Duffield, thank you for allowing this conversation in the middle of your report. If you want to pick up where you left off.
We did do that, didn't we? So-
yeah, no, that's okay. That's good. And I'm going to touch on just a couple other points. I got invited late last week to go down this week to the Vacado, Virginia Community Development Housing Organization Annual Conference. HUD is down there giving a talk on redevelopment. They asked if I'd come down, and they wanted me to share what was going on in Charlottesville. And my intent very much is to sort of turn that into, lead it into a discussion of, what resident-led and truly resident-focused redevelopment means, rather than just, what they want to hear is how the process works and what forms you put in and, things like that. And no, every intent to just say, look, that's fine, but that's not what gets the work done and done well. What's made us successful is the partnerships. And I may have to call you to come get me or something like that. 'Cause they may not want to hear that, but we'll see. All right.
Make them too mad, we can still deal with them.
That's right. I've included in here an update on the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program. I was asked by the HAC last week to give an update, and so I'm providing for you essentially what I gave to them. The first page is a program history that tells how we've gotten to this point. from the sort of inception of the idea in 2016 to finally go into contract with the city in 2018. The next page is the parameters. City Council allocated $900,000 in funding for use within the fiscal year ending 2018. Implemented essentially a 35% holdback, leaving $585,000 available to support the program. Programs to provide assistance to low-income families at 60% of AMI or less, and families must live or work in Charlottesville to be able to use the program. The other piece was that the programs to mirror, essentially mirror our HCV program. Right. To date, we have served 89 families. We're currently assisting 77 families, so we've had 12 families that are not, have migrated off the program. 77 families equates to 242 people, 137 kids under the age of 5. Yep. 105 adults, 2 elderly individuals, and 24 disabled. So we sit here today, we have three families who are still searching for housing. We are no longer enrolling participants in the program. We do have a waiting list. We've had a total of 151 applicants over the course of the past year. 30 of those have been unable to find housing. Nine participants were previously homeless. We had 10 slots allocated for homelessness. And we have 20 participants who are in self-sufficiency programs, and the program allowed 20 slots for self-sufficiency. To date, we've expended $447,544. Our monthly rental expenses are just under $50,000. Our projected spend by the close of this fiscal year will be $547,294. Remember, we had $585,000 available from the city, so we will likely come in below the amount that was available. Average rental assistance is $647. Our projected year 2 need, if we continue to only serve 77 families, okay, would be about $650,000, and that assumes a 10% increase in costs. And again, no more families than we currently serve. Yeah, it's. I think the program's been successful. I think it is being successful.
I would agree.
It is. This is one of those programs that is just fun to be part of, right? That's you help people get in housing. I think it's achieved the goals that the city council's looking for. We will go in front of city council, I believe, on May 6th, and well, we don't know.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay. 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 Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, on the applications of the folks that are not able to find housing, the 30
Right.
that weren't able to find housing, for what reasons are they not able to find houses, and do they get extra help with looking for housing?
Yeah, the way the program sets up, as written today, when a family comes in and enrolls in the program, they have 90 days within which to find housing within the city. If they can't find it within the city, we have the option to extend it another 90 days. They can continue to look in the city, and they can look in Albemarle County. If at the end of that 90-day period, they're unable to find housing, then, yeah, it's expended the time frame that we're able to help them with. Now, I think within this number of 30, I think a number of folks have probably voluntarily withdrawn, moved out of the area, something of that nature. I don't know how many arts, or am I saying that, or am I? Okay, I mean, if I'm,
We got a program for the income-based out there.
okay,
Out there,
okay,
world status.
right. So, but, you know, it's not uncommon for us to find families that have challenges finding affordable housing in the region across the boards. Yeah.
Can I ask, do we know how many families might have been on the wait list for public housing that this might have helped?
Yeah, I can get you that number.
Yeah,
I
I'm just
don't have
wondering
it.
if that would help the case for
Sure.
continuing the program that is helping
Yeah.
the people who are waiting for housing.
Would you like to come and speak?
No.
I don't know if we need help
Yeah.
Sounds like we need some kind of help.
I mean, if some of it
presenting
is,
to council, but it seems like that could be another.
I mean, I would like for us to sort of parse that waiting list question before
Yeah.
we put
Yep.
any hard numbers down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Good. But no, I mean, you know, you can speak.
Well, we just want to thank our in-house expert on the program is here. So these are, you don't have to know all the answers, but these are some of the questions that we don't need exact numbers. I was just wondering if in the
Well,
general.
it actually came off of our Section 8 program, not our public housing.
Okay.
list, so.
So, and the
That
program
makes
set
sense.
aside, what, 10 vouchers, if you will, 10 slots for homeless, 20 slots for self-sufficiency,
Yes.
right? All others were to roll from our housing choice, we make it available to those on our housing choice voucher list, with the caveat that if they accepted the city voucher, the city funding, they didn't lose their spot on the housing choice voucher list.
Right.
Okay, because the city funding is maybe temporary. And, yeah, so, I mean, I think let's get a solid number, okay, on that.
Yes.
So that
before
is
you
happening,
Yes.
they won't lose their spot on
Oh,
the
yeah.
public housing list?
That's correct.
That
And
is
I was-
happening?
That's right. They do
Can
not-
you give us an instance, or has there been an instance yet when someone has a city voucher, has come up for a HUD Section 8 voucher, and just sort of made the transition while staying in place in their unit?
Yes, I did have one who went through Albemarle County, though.
Okay.
We haven't opened our Section 8 wait list or funding, but she did go through Albemarle County and stayed in her location.
So she'd had money through our program, and then became available for a voucher through housing in Albemarle County, and just converted to HUD, and then freed up that city voucher for us to put back into the program.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, even though our wait list isn't open, I'm very curious, just personally, and this isn't a city issue so much, or it's devil in the details, but of course, when we adopted a new admin plan, that then also applied to this program, and just sort of curious in general how it had been a lottery system before, now we have a preference-based list system, how that might have changed the program, or how we are doing and sort of implementing that, just an overall update, if you are willing.
We haven't implemented it into our program yet.
Okay.
Yeah, because the intent was to draw from those who've been waiting the longest, first, and yeah, come through.
Okay, so we made a decision then for this
program.
the city program, that the preference system wouldn't directly reply, but in fact, we were creating a preference for basically longest on the list
Right,
for this
exactly.
program.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's helpful to know.
Yeah. And folks want to know about 37% of our clients are residing in Albemarle County. The other 63% are finding homes within the city of Charlottesville.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. Yeah, and we are in the process of trying to negotiate what the next round of funding needs to look like.
And we're still holding that set aside as the set aside? I mean, that's unchanged?
Actually, I think the HAC is going to make a recommendation concerning, what that looks like.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work making this program fly this year.
Yeah. She is the guru. Right.
I've been hearing about you. Good things, all good things.
Very quickly on the financials.
Thank you.
Okay. We're at the year end, and
Oh, yeah.
what we'll find, these are preliminary year end numbers. As we sit here today, we closed the year $25,000 in the red. Okay. What I say, this is preliminary because we have funding that we have not received, primarily from the city, that should make that change significantly. We're $25,000. The whole, we're waiting on $74,000 in support of the Residents on the Job program. Assuming the city council agrees to release that portion of funding, that would greatly impact our bottom line. We also had expenses related to additional security services that I know we talked at this body at the time. We agreed to expand. There was some question as to whether or not the city would be willing or able to help support us in that additional expense. But that expense is about $57,000 greater. But it is absolutely what we need to do. It does impact our bottom line. We have some redevelopment funding that is currently pending, outstanding with the city that we are. I hope we'll receive soon.
Mr. My understanding is just needs some more information in regards before those funds can be released, correct?
I don't know. I made a report. I haven't gotten any information back.
Are you familiar with any? I said, are you familiar with what the potential holdup may be in terms of releasing the funds? It was my understanding that there was just some documents that were missing.
The Residents on the Job.
Right.
We're preparing an agenda item for May 6th.
For May 6th, okay. I'm assuming it'll be on the consent agenda, or will it be on the consent agenda, or will it be a
It's a presentation.
presentation? Okay, got you.
Okay.
So May 6th.
Is there information that's required, additional information that's required? Because I haven't seen anything.
Miss
Okay.
Miss Kelly, would you mind coming up and addressing if you had a moment? Yes, please. If that's okay with you, Mr. Duffield, Ms. Jones.
I'm just curious as to what
Chairwoman
information.
Jones, excuse me.
Yeah.
For the record, Brenda Kelly, Redevelopment Manager with the city. So when the funding was approved by the City Council, there were some requirements by the City Council they wanted, and there was a funding agreement put in place. And many of the items in the funding agreement that were required were not complied with. So staff is not able to authorize the release of the funds. Only City Council can do that. So that's why it needs to go back in front of City Council.
So Does that make sense for you, Mr.?
Yeah, I know the reporting requirement, quarterly reporting requirement wasn't met, but we submitted the closeout report, and I think demonstrated that the project goals were met. I understand I don't know, are there comments that are coming back to the Housing Authority? Or is this, we just bring this on May 6th?
I will share when the agenda item is ready, but a lot of it was reporting requirements required, were not
Right.
provided.
Well, yeah, I absolutely agree. Reporting requirements were not complied with as per, yeah.
So if that's the issue, then that's why the funds haven't been dispersed yet?
Correct.
So once we clear that part up, the funds can be dispersed and then we're all good?
That's up to City Council.
Okay.
City Council
I'll
action.
work on my part. That will be on the agenda on the 6th as well?
As far as I know, it will be.
All right, cool. So let me work on that. I'm making a note right now.
I mean, is that staff's recommendation to City Council to release the funding?
I don't make staff's recommendations, so
I thought, no.
as far as I know.
Well, I guess for clarification, he's asking, because on the memo, as we all know, just for the record, there's a portion that says staff recommendation in regards to whether or not this should be passed or whatnot. So you're saying that you don't make, whom would that recommendation come from?
That would be higher up that reviews the reports, the agenda
Which would be
items.
Mr. Murphy or?
Mr. Murphy, as far as I know.
Okay.
Yep, it might be the budget office.
Cool.
So it'll be them working together.
And then you guys are having your meeting on Friday?
Yes, we
All right,
meet on
so
Friday.
then we could probably clear that up.
Yeah.
Make sure that staff recommends it. I'll also be talking to colleagues on council.
Good.
And we set.
That's
May
it.
6th, we get some dough.
Well, that
I didn't mean to
changes
say
changes the
Strike that
outlook
from the record.
for CRHA, yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.
See, problem solved.
There you go.
I'm saying
We're good.
See?
All right, are there
We good.
other questions and comments for Mr. Duffield on the financials, year-end closeout numbers? Okay,
Commissioners, thank you so much. All right, I appreciate your support.
thank you, Mr. Duffield. We now have a brief moment for the Resident Services Committee report. Who would like to present that? No, that's all right. I just were you at the Resident Service Committee? Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. So this is behind tab 7 in your notebooks, and we are moving to wrap up soon, so.
Joy Johnson, 802A Hard Drive, and I am one of the co-chair of the Resident Services Committee. Resident Services Committee was met on April the 11th. And as you can see, I won't say who all the people that were present there. So we basically talked about the calendar. The Resident Services Committee, we decided part of what we did with our work plan was that we needed to come up with a calendar for the whole year and to put different subject items that we talk about. As you know, for folks who are probably joining the first time, we have these Resident Services Committee meetings on different sites for 3 months in a row, and then we shifted. And so we were at West Haven, we've been at Crescent Halls, this will be the 3rd meeting at Crescent Halls, and then we will move to South First Street. But what we heard from the residents at Crescent Halls was what Miss Judy speaked about, which was security. Safety, they were, and the concerns about people when crime is committed, that people have nowhere to go. And so the Resident Services Committee decided that we would just flood Crescent Halls with services and so we asked them what services they want. And at a resident services meeting, they basically gave us some idea. We had Sarah was there. Pace was there. They also talked about bingo. So right now on the calendar, There will be a counseling session, safety section, and they had a defense group, right? There was they had a defense group that came in that was put on by Sarah. So there is a calendar that is Ms. Green is helping, not Ms. Claudette Green, but Ms. Charlene Green is working on to get the calendar full. And I think they're working with the Tenant Association and the Tenant Association. So it's a collaborative idea. We did have a police officer who attended one meeting, but they haven't, and so I will talk to Ms. Green about making sure that that police officer is and if you can help me, Wes, is to also make sure that we have a police officer who is a member of the Resident Services Committee who is attending, so some of these safety issues can be. And I think at one point we had also said that I think the security Millennium should be a part of that also, so that they can hear from the resident and address some of those things. So we're continuously working on that calendar. Hopefully before we leave Crescent Halls, that calendar will be set. But even after we're gone, working with the Tenant Association and the staff to make sure that it is attempting to address Region 10. I will be there also. So we're still looking for more services that will occupy that space and be another ears and eyes.
What's the date again?
Wonderful.
I'm just writing it down. What's the date?
The date,
Thursday, May 9th.
we meet every second Thursday of the month.
So Thursday the 9th?
Thursday, the 9th.
The
And
9th.
Is it at Crescent Hall
It
one
will
last
be
time?
at Crescent Hall.
At
That will
Crescent
be
Hall.
the
Is it 1
last
p.m.?
meeting.
Got you.
Yeah, but Charlene Green is helping to coordinate that, and I think Raphael Holland is also working on that. So, so we hear the residents at Crescent Halls. We're just trying to figure out another alternative to how, because for me, what was just, whenever I look at that building, my heart really cringe, because it's another world in that building, right? And you know, Audrey and I hear stories. Audrey hears stories. She said, Carolyn, whatever. And so this was another proactive way of trying to do something and having, you know, because when someone get raped, I know it's a, I thank One Day for letting me know that that's a trigger, right? And even that, when we're talking about things like that, we have to be so sensitive about how we do that. And so there was a lot of people in that building who they want to talk to somebody, but they don't feel safe talking to that person because they don't want it to come back. And so we need to find a way and services where somebody can feel free to have a relationship with them so that their needs can be taken care of. And hopefully what we have in place will be a part of the redevelopment scheme.
Great.
We talked about the meet and greet. Ms. Green talked about that a little bit. We mentioned about Cornelius Griggs coming in, but that date got changed. So they might thought I was lying about it. It was supposed to have been last week, but it's this week, and so I apologize for that. The pet policy, a notice went out from Ms. Claudette Green, the housing director, about that, it was a reminder to people because you signed it within your lease, and so it was a reminder. But the parking policy is the other one that is coming up, that to send out reminder because it's getting warm now, and some asset manager is enforcing it. It's not across the board. We're hoping that it will be across the board. And so I think she's going to be sending that out. And then we talked about service. So we had somebody from Mickey Drive, and there are big concerns about Mickey Drive also.
Interesting.
There's some safe.
I think that there's a flyer that needs to go out on all the sites.
Yes.
That's a problem on
Right,
all the
right,
sites
right.
now.
So there is a big concern about Mickey Drive, and so because it was brought up, we're going to make sure, trying to figure out a way how we move some of the resident services meeting even in that direction. Right, because that's a site that it just seems like it's out of sight, out of mind.
We might be able to borrow the Region 10 room.
If you can
do it
help with
there.
that, we will gladly want it to be able
Oh,
to
I'm
do
getting a look that says maybe not there.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
What is it? Well, if you will figure it out. Harriet Carter was the winner of the raffle, and our next meeting will be on May 9th, 1 p.m. at Crescent Halls, and Miss Mason was the staff person there.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
All right. Any questions or comments for Ms. Johnson on the Resident Services Committee? If not, that was a very thorough report. Thank you. Does anyone have other business they'd like to bring before the board at this time?
I do. I have one thing. I'm not sure. Well, I'll be sending a formal note to the board. On June 29th, there is a request for a race, or excuse me, a run, a 4-miler, walk / jog / run, and it's called Run the Streets. So essentially there's an effort by several members of the community, myself being one, to encourage physical fitness amongst African Americans, and specifically within traditionally African American communities in the city. So whether that's Tonsler Park, First Street, West Haven, so forth. In any event, there's 5Ks and 4-milers always going around in the city. So the goal is to have a 4-miler that runs through our neighborhoods. So the thought is to start at the Jefferson School, go from the Jefferson School, run up West Main, go into West Haven, from West Haven, run up 10th Street, go down past the hospital, go through Prospect, go through Greenstone Commons, come out, make a left, go through Ridge Street, then eventually come through First Street, go from First Street, make a right, go up Elliott, make a left on 6th Street, go down 6th Street, go through through Friendship Court, from Friendship Court, run through the parking lot of Crescent Halls, from Crescent Halls, make a right on Oak, past the Daughters of Zion Cemetery, run past Barrett Cemetery, past Barrett Daycare, thank you, and then from there go back to the Jefferson School. So essentially, again, it's the idea is to encourage healthy living and running and seeing like different folks jog and run through our neighborhoods. So I wanted to run that by the board. Would love to have some stations within our communities with information about like healthy facts about like West Haven. This was the first public housing site, but we're more than just what you see on TV. Like here's some positive information about us. And just different things throughout so people can jog through. Yeah. Probably even make a donation to CRHA or something like that.
I'm thinking we need water stations.
Yeah, water stations.
Amazing.
Water stations what I mean.
June 29th, up and down the biggest hills in Charlottesville from what you just listed.
It's going to be warm, but it starts early.
Holy cow.
Starts at 8 a.m.
We're going to run you
again,
from Tonsler up to Ridge and back down again. And then,
well, we've been running it. My friends and I have been running it lately. It's a little challenging, but the route isn't as bad. But again, it's a walk / run.
Okay. Crawling? Can you crawl?
Yeah, crawl, whatever. But again, the idea is just to encourage physical activity. So, again, I want to run it by the board. Here you all. I send something formal, but we got to fly it together and just got approval from the city and all of that good stuff.
And Grant, we'll just need to figure out if we need any sort of special dispensation for, like, if you go through South First Street, and not just down First Street kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it'd be fun to set up some booths and have some water stations,
have water,
and balloons, and
this is awesome.
popsicles.
Yeah, I just think it'll bring a different spin to our neighborhoods.
I love it. Thank you.
So, yeah, it's June 29th.
Green scooters.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't include the green
She wants a lot.
You can't ride the scooter on the run. but for you can. You can.
There you go.
All right, that's
It's
a new
a
one.
pair.
Cool.
Just come back.
I will take that back to my friends about the green scooter.
Thank you. Other business. With that, I will give a couple meeting announcements. Monday at noon at South First Street will be a continued discussion of parallel track and maintenance, followed by a redevelopment committee meeting at 1:30 that day. And at that meeting, we will be, I can't remember what we're focusing on all of a sudden.
We're focusing on both the demo dispo
And the
general contract.
Yes.
That's right. So we're looking at both to finalize the demo and dispo applications that we all approved grant signing this evening, as well as really making the decision and how we're going to work together to make the decision on a general contractor for our upcoming projects. And it's all at First Street. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. On there'll be a maintenance committee meeting. We're looking to finalize either the 25th or May 2nd. We'll get back to you all on that. Resident Services Committee meeting is Tuesday, May 9th at 1 at Crescent Halls. And the big deal is that our current meeting is scheduled for Memorial Day. And I heard back from both Betsy and Mr. Osteen that they are available to move that. I had proposed some dates, but I wanted to run it by, and it sounds like Ms. Slaughter will be out on medical leave, but Mr. Bellamy, what other dates you might be available in May? I believe we were looking at, what did I say, Tuesdays or Wednesdays? Or Wednesdays or Thursdays? I think Wednesdays and Thursdays because of Planning Commission. Wednesdays or Thursdays in May, the 22nd, 23rd, or 29th, 30th. Do you have actually the 23rd is not a good idea. 22nd, 29th, or 30th. Do you have a preference, Mr. Bellamy?
I'm looking literally right now. But school is out, so I can do any day.
Any day? Really?
Yes.
6 p.m. in the evening?
Yes.
Does staff have a preference
I don't think so.
in terms of having materials prepared for us for things we need to approve in May?
It's the 22nd, you said, right? Yep, cool. Wednesday the 22nd. Oh, if school staff.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
All right, so it's a little before Memorial Day, but I think that's better. All right, so our next meeting will be Wednesday, May 22nd at 6 p.m. here in City Council chambers. Mr. Duffield, will you ensure that we get chambers?
Yes.
Yeah, and if that's not available, we'll come back to you with Plan B, but that's the intention. Thank you all. We now have on our agenda scheduled, public comments for this evening. If there are any final public comments?